All right, so let's just start. What a great turnout here. Let's give everyone a round of applause who showed up today. Yeah. In case you weren't here last week, we have this local legend series, and the goal really is not to bring on these local legends in terms of records or doing the fastest time or lifting the most amount of weight like someone like Tommy, but really to share stories of how they've got to where they are and also stories of how they've given back to community. So to start off, we got Tommy here from Chelsea Athletica. He's not only a coach and an owner of Chelsea Athletica, but also some of you know he went to the CrossFit Games twice in the team event for Canada. So let's give him a round welcome and a round of applause. So Tommy, if we could just get started here, probably not everyone knows, besides maybe, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, about your origin story of, growing up in Gatineau Parc, first of all, and then secondly, becoming a CrossFit Games athlete. So tell us about it.
All right, cool. So, obviously I grew up here in Chelsea. And obviously what a place to grow up, right? Like growing up here, I grew up canoeing and kayaking at the Cascades Club in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, like we're just here skiing at Camp Fortune or go cross-country skiing with like Chelsea Nordic and stuff like that. So like sport was just always a huge part of my life growing up, and like also with all my friends and stuff like that. And then, like grew up paddling, super competitive with that. And then started going to being competitive in CrossFit, and then eventually opening up Chelsea Athletica here today. So it's kind of a bit of the origins here.
I love that. So Gatineau Parc was a big part of that, right? You talked about your, career part in terms of being on the water, which is, not just being on the land with CrossFit. So something I'm curious to ask is, how do you see the importance of Gatineau Parc giving both the water and the land access in terms of training as an athlete?
Well, just for like so many different aspects. Like number one, when we were training for the CrossFit Games, like we get like, it's about more of a broad test. So we have tests like mountain biking, open water swimming and stuff like that. So I knew when we qualified for the CrossFit Games, it was immediately like every weekend we're coming here. I remember we even rented bikes from Nomades Park one weekend. We just got on the bikes. Sure enough, one of our first events was like a mountain bike event at the CrossFit Games. We did a bunch of open water swimming at Meech Lake, paddleboarding. And then sure enough, like we get tested on those events and stuff like that. So just having the exposure to the outdoors and different sports like mountain biking, cross-country skiing, paddleboarding, canoeing, all that kind of stuff, trail running, just kind of makes you a more well-rounded athlete in general. And so when we're tested in those kind of domains at the CrossFit Games, I just feel like I kind of have that advantage because I grew up doing all that kind of stuff too, right?
Right, yeah. So it gave you that competitive advantage in terms of being a versatile athlete, right? Having exposure where you can't just be good at one thing in terms of lifting, you can't just be good at swimming, you have to have that, different aspects of the sport of CrossFit. And so something I'm curious to ask from there is, cross training is really important, and we have a lot of people out in the crowd here that love to trail run, for example, for today. Yeah. And trail running is great for our cardio, right? And our endurance. But there's other aspects of being an athlete, right? You have to have muscular strength. You have to have agility. You have to have a lot of aspects. So how do you see cross training and CrossFit benefiting not only a CrossFitter, but the average everyday person?
So just talking from experience, like I used to be a competitive sprint canoeer, and my life was just paddling, and I was paddling on one side like for 4 hours a day, right? And doing that like over and over again, just that repetitiveness motion again, like my shoulders were basically turning into like this like permanently. And so when I started doing like CrossFit and cross training, ironically it was at Heritage College where you're teaching now, all of a sudden like I was using these different muscles and different ranges of motions that I'd never used before. And sure enough, like I felt like way more balanced. And it's funny enough that there's like an ongoing joke that you're gonna hurt yourself doing CrossFit, which of course, like you could hurt yourself doing anything really, but like I found myself almost bulletproofing my shoulders and like finding myself less injured because I was doing more cross training, doing more like different movements and finding myself more balanced as opposed to doing the same movement over and over again. So I know there's a lot of trail runners here, and I feel like if you if you have an off season, right, it's kind of important to just do different movements or do different domains, like do strength training, just to kind of like balance out your body a little bit and kind of gain that strength because if you're just doing the same movement over and over again, like I was doing with canoeing, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just like with doing that same repetitive motion over and over again, your body kind of gets stale in those positions for quite a while. So if you can balance that out with either doing yoga or just doing different sports and just challenging your body to do different things, I think as far as like longevity goes and just balancing your body, like that will work out really well. And it worked out really well for me. I almost found myself being less sore, having a more balanced program, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, and I think that's what makes a quality program, right? Is you have to have that athlete mentality, right? You can't just have that one focus, all in mentality. You need to have a variety of skill sets, especially for CrossFit or any athlete. So thinking about that, if someone right now wants to have a more quality based program, how could someone, create like a team training environment, which you had when you were training for the games? How could they add that as well? Because we could start getting good at CrossFit, or we could start getting good at something like even trail running, but then we're missing that, community. And you've done that with Chelsea Athletica. So let's hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, just as far as like any athletic endeavor, if you try to go really far, it's really easy to get motivated for like one day, right? But what's going to make you do it for a long time and make you go far in any sport or really see results is building good habits. And I find the best way to build a good habit is really finding a group of friends that you enjoy doing it with. So at Chelsea Athletica, what we really try to create, at least at our gym, is kind of like a sense of strong community. And instead of it feeling like, oh, we have to do a workout at a gym, I want to make it feel like, man, I get to see my friends in the morning at 6 a.m. And then, oh yeah, and we're doing a workout too, but mostly I get to see my friends. And so like, if you can create or find anything with a sense of community and a group of friends that you can do something challenging with, then I think that's where you're gonna find longevity. I mean, that's why we're all here tonight, right? Like we decided to run together as a group, and it wasn't like, oh, I have to go for a run. It's like, oh man, I get to see my friends. We're gonna go have drinks after and stuff like that. And when you kind of switch your goal and mindset to like, I get to hang out with my friends and do something challenging with them, it really becomes way easier to kind of make that a routine and habit, as opposed to like, okay, I'm gonna run 5K alone at this pace. And you can do that, you can get away with that. But as far as like doing something long-term, making it a habit, way easier to just find a group of friends that are like-minded and you have a good time with. It doesn't really matter what it is you do, whether it's dragon boating, running, biking, CrossFit, but if you just find a group of friends that have a similar goal, hell, you guys will go so far just doing that, So I just find a group of friends that have the same goal as you and get after it with them, like we just did tonight,
Yeah, no, and I think that also has to do with togetherness, right? People
Totally.
like to feel part of something bigger than the goal mentality, right, of training for their sport. They want to feel community, which, you've built, obviously. They also want to feel part of something greater, like in terms of the outdoors and, getting better at things and pushing each other. Or the best thing from there, what you said, is even finding a way to lift each other up, right, in terms of to feel good about themselves. So something that I really want to go to is when you did first qualify for the games, which was super exciting and really hard to do because not that many people go. There's not that many teams at a CrossFit Games. You were just becoming a father at the time. So how did you balance, work, life, and CrossFit to get out to the games? And also, what was it like to even go to the games? What was your experience like? I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about it here.
Yeah, so I remember like I said earlier, I was a competitive canoeer at like Cascade Canoe Club just down the road. And my goal was always to go to the Olympics. And I was like good, but maybe not that good to go to the Olympics. I don't know if Connor Fair is here. Ron? Hey, Ron. I used to paddle with Ron here, and we won like nationals, and that was kind of like my pinnacle of that sport. But then when I remember it was kind of getting a bit stale for me, like just doing the same thing over and over again. I remember trying to find motivation on YouTube, and I came across this CrossFit commercial, and these people were doing handstand push-ups, and I was like, Rig, that's really cool. And I remember going to my bedroom and like trying to do handstand push-ups against the wall, and I did it. I kind of did it, I don't know, I can't really remember if I did it or not, but I tried it and I was like, this is cool. And I remember looking up like CrossFit gyms in Ottawa. And at the time, there was only 2 CrossFit gyms and I didn't have my driver's license. And long story short, went to Heritage College, got my driver's license, started driving to the CrossFit gym, fell in love with the sport, and I was like pretty good at it. And coming from a sprint canoe background, with sprint canoeing, all we would do is just bench press and weighted pull-ups. So coming to the CrossFit gym, crushed all the gymnastics movements, like any muscle ups, toes to bar, chest to bars, was already like really good at. But then like you give me squatting, and all of a sudden like these like moms that are 40 and 50 are crushing me. And that was a big shot to my ego, and I was like, shit, I guess I'm not that good. And anyways, long story short, I was really good in some aspects of CrossFit, because CrossFit's like really a test of all these physical domains in every aspect, like weightlifting, gymnastics, cardiovascular endurance, like anaerobic endurance, lactic acid, like just a test of really everything. And I was really good at some stuff, really bad at other stuff. And so I just was doing it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the community aspect of it. There's so much stuff to work on. So coming from a paddling background where I'm just trying to get as fast as I can at a 200 meter pace, 200 meter race, now all of a sudden I'm doing CrossFit where it's like there's a million things I can work on. It's not just that one distance I got to be better at. So it was super fun for me. And I'm sure people that come to our gym at Chelsea Athletica realize that we're not just doing one thing, we're not just testing one thing. Every day is kind of different. So as far as like a consumer or an athlete, it's just super stimulating walking to the gym and working on something new every day. And it's super addicting too, because there's so many things you can work on. So I'm getting a bit off track, but this will come back. So I love this sport. I was following the CrossFit Games and I was like, I really want to go there one day. And I remember I made the regionals in 2015. I was 21 years old. I was maybe one of the youngest people there, and I was like, I think I can do this. I remember telling my now wife at the time, like, I think I want to go as an individual to the semifinals or regionals at the time, and she's like, okay, like, good luck. But at the time, I was like 150 pounds soaking wet, and these guys are huge, and I was a young kid at the time, and sure enough, the next year I worked really hard and I made it, and I was like, hey, like I think I can do this and stuff. And so it kept on just progressing year and year, getting closer and closer to that goal. And I remember the pandemic hit, and there was a lot of unknowns and stuff like that, but I stayed pretty focused on just getting better every day. And sure enough, I reached out to 3 other people in Ottawa who were about the same level as me, and we got a team together, made the CrossFit Games. And like you said, not a lot of teams go there. I think in Canada, like only 2 teams in all of Canada went. And as far as individuals, maybe 5 men, 5 women. And I just remember making the games and being obviously really happy. But when you show up to the games, you're an athlete, you're competitive, you kind of get caught up in like just the weekend and the leaderboard and stuff like that. But I know we're checking the leaderboard and stuff, but I always had these moments while I was at the games being like, imagine telling Tommy at 10 years ago that he'd be here, like how stoked he'd be. Like imagine telling like 19-year-old Tommy when he started this, like that you'd make the games one day, how happy you'd be. So I think that's kind of important no matter what you do or whatever sport you do. Once you make that goal, just to kind of take a second, just take a step back and tell yourself, like when you started this, like how stoked would yourself be right now? And so even during the competition, whether it was the ups or downs, I remember like just taking a second, looking at like the person on the right of me, like, holy shit, like Rich Froning's warming up right beside me. Like, how cool is that, you know? Sorry, Rich Froning is like the Wayne Gretzky of CrossFit. So there's just a moment there at the CrossFit Games where I was like, damn, this is really cool. It doesn't matter what happens. It's cool that I made it here. And like just thinking about all the support that my family and my wife gave and stuff like that was awesome. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And I think, was there ever a moment when you were at the games, you're like, well, I'm from Chelsea. I'm from this small little town village. Like, did that ever come up?
It wasn't more so like a small town, now I'm here. It was more like, fuck yeah, I'm from Chelsea. Like, I can ball out here. I'm a Chelsea guy. Like, I remember when the second time I went, there was a kayaking event, and I'm like, these guys don't know how to kayak like I know how to kayak. Like, I'm gonna crush this thing. Or I remember we had a mountain bike event. I'm like, these guys didn't rent bikes from Nomades to Parc. Like I was riding the Gatineau Park last week. Like I'm gonna ball out with this. Like, so if anything, it just gave me a lot of confidence because, like we said earlier, like we just get exposed to so much stuff here, and we have such easy access to so many different sports and stuff like that here that, I mean, yeah, like it was, if anything, it was a confidence boost.
For sure, yeah, you were really proud of where you were from. But something that I'm curious to ask is, you know, in terms of the good, the bad, and the ugly of being an athlete and getting to that level, like people don't just want to hear about, you know, you getting to the games. They also want to hear about the hardships of maybe where you got an injury and that was maybe really hard to overcome. So what was the good, the bad, and the ugly from your career that you want to share with people here from what they can learn?
You should ask my wife about that because she probably deals with most of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But like, as far as injuries goes, there's always ups and downs. But I had a lot of support from my family and my wife and stuff. Like she's always been super supportive. As far as injuries go, I found I always got hurt after coming back from vacation for some reason. Not for some reason, I know why, because on vacation I was doing this, like I was drinking and just sitting down a lot, and then I'd get home from vacation and be like, hey, time to train for the games, games mode, let's go. And my body's like, dude, what the hell? Like you've been drinking beers for a week, you're not ready for this, you don't know what's going on. And sure enough, like I'd pull a hamstring or I'd pop a rib, but it was anything serious like that. But I remember obviously you get injured, it's part of it, but I never had any like big injuries leading up to the games or anything like that. But if anything, the hardest part was more so just like the mental fatigue of competing, you know what I mean? So you have this big goal year round that you're just training for, and it's intense and it's long. It really feels long. And I remember after the games, I just took a full 4 months off of doing nothing, like just not even doing an air squat or burpee, nothing. To the point where I remember my team was getting together the second year round and we're like trying to ramp it up, and I'm like, I think I'm too far gone. Like I haven't done anything in a while. But sure enough, like started training during Christmas time, and I got back to it pretty quickly, and it turned out well. Like I got my fitness back up, it was good. But if anything, it's just the mental fatigue of just doing the same thing over and over again that's the hardest part. So we were just talking about this earlier, but like finding balance is super important. We both have a mutual friend, Pat Vellner, who's a big name in the sport, who will often just drink beers like during training camp. And I don't know if that's just something to say about like finding balance, but like if anything, to find mental balance when you're competing at a high level is probably pretty important. And I tried to find that during my time going to the CrossFit Games. I know Pat Vellner did too, so yeah.
Yeah, well, I think too much of anything, right? Too much training, too much drinking, right? Too much eating, right? Like too much of anything, right, is just not helpful, right? So something I'm curious to go to, I want to switch gears here because we heard a lot about the community of Chelsea Athletica, but I think first and foremost, we got to give a shout out. I think your dad's here and he built it with his bare hands. So where is he?
Peter.
There he is. Pete. So Pete, shout out to Pete. Now that's a beautiful barn. You know, you can look on social media. Most of you have probably already been there inside and outside. But if we could talk about, sometimes we don't hear, you know, the gritty side of any business. So if we could hear, you know, the origin story of how did, you know, Chelsea Athletica start? And, you know, I heard a rumor at one point there was like a lot of weights in a Subaru, over 800. Like, just tell us more. How did it start, and tell us about it?
It's cool that you asked that question. Where did it start? Because it literally started 200 meters down the road. Yeah. So I remember like I moved from, I was in Toronto for a bit of a stint, and I was working at a CrossFit gym, and I'm like, man, like there's no CrossFit gym in Chelsea. Like there needs to be one. Like when I moved back there, I went up to a CrossFit gym when I get back, and I got back here and I was like going to the different like commercial buildings, which there aren't a lot here. I remember literally going to the mechanic buildings and be like, don't take offense to this, but like if you ever close down, let me know. I want to open up a gym here. And they're like, I'm not planning on closing down soon. And I was like, I know, just if you are. Anyways, COVID happened, and I was throwing down literally workouts in my basement with my friends, and my friends loved it and I loved it too. And then COVID hit, we weren't allowed to like get together obviously in indoor spaces, so I bought a bunch of dumbbells, We brought him here to the NCC parking lots, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do workouts with dumbbells and skipping ropes. And like, I'm not sure if you guys are on that run, but if you notice, there's some rocks that are about this high. We literally use those rocks for like box step ups or box jumps, and we would do sprints on that field there and stuff like that. And it was cool because I remember like this was kind of a trial period. I'm like, if we can get people out here paying to do workouts with dumbbells in the cold, in the rain, I know that we'll be able to deal with a real building, you know what I mean? And so sure enough, remember it was October, it was raining, pouring freaking rain, it was cold out. And I showed up in my Subaru with a bunch of dumbbells. I'm like, no one's gonna be here. And sure enough, there was like 15 people. And I'm like, okay, this can work. And there's some people that are here today that were at that workout. Like Jeremy, you came, Esty was here, Nat was here. And it's just like really cool to see like how far we've come from those workouts outside to like the gym that we have now. But so yeah, that's kind of the bit of the origin story. We started out here and then we moved to my garage, which was only supposed to be 2 months, which turned into a year. And now we have this beautiful building just beside Lake Fougere. Thanks, Dad. You're the best. It's such an epic building. Like I've been to CrossFit gyms and gyms literally everywhere. It's my favorite thing to do when I travel is to go to gyms, and I think it's really unique what Dad you built here. When you go there, like it kind of feels like you're in the forest, and so it's kind of like this nice fitness sanctuary. And what we try to do with Chelsea Athletica is really make it feel everybody's welcome there, and just make you feel like, man, you get to meet your neighbors there, get to have new friends, come out for drinks at Nomades after, like just the good vibes, you know? So I'm super happy and super privileged to have the community that we have now. But thank you guys, for those of you guys that have stepped foot in Chelsea Athletica. And also a really big special shout out to my sister Catherine, who is honestly the foundation of it all. Cause like without her, it wouldn't be running, because I have a full-time job with Ottawa Fire. My brother's in Montreal, and really Catherine is like the foundation of that gym. So thank you, Kat.
Right. I'm really glad that you mentioned, other people that were part of it. Kat, your brother, your dad, your whole family, your community, right? You can't have a gym without your community. And something I am curious to ask, because I think it is a really important question that really applies to anyone that's in the crowd here, whether they're part of Nomades, Chelsea Athletica. But what is the advice that you would give to someone that is trying to break up with failing fitness? So they try something new, and then shortly after that, they quit. And then now they try something else, and then they quit. But now they're in this pattern where they keep failing fitness in terms of what they're doing. So what would you give?
I would say like there's so much like information and fads out there about what you should do, but like I kind of spoke to earlier, my experience as a coach and as an athlete is just find a group of people that you enjoy doing something with, because that's going to give you the best longevity to do anything, and build those habits with those people, right? So like I said earlier, find those friends that are like-minded. Like your biggest influence is your environment. So if you hang out with people that like mountain biking, guess what you're going to do? You're going to mountain bike. You're going to mountain bike every Tuesday and Thursday at Nomad. If you have friends that enjoy going to the gym, you're going to end up going to the gym. And like just be genuine with it. Like it doesn't have to be CrossFit. It doesn't have to be a program. As long as you just have a good group of friends that you enjoy hanging out with and then you enjoy doing something with, that will have the best longevity, in my opinion, through anything. And that won't fail you with any fitness. So there's so many opinions out there about doing keto, different diets, CrossFit, bodybuilding, but heck, just move, find friends to do it with, sweat, and have a good time, and you'll be fine. You'll get through it, yeah.
Well, I love those words there. We're going to end there, but I want to really thank you, for taking the time to be out here to run with us tonight, to get super stoked up about, being in our playground here in Chelsea.
Stoked, man. Yeah.
And thanks a lot for being here today.
Thanks you, man.
We're going to do a question period. So if anyone has questions that you're dying to ask, Tommy's here for you.
That's a good question. I remember pulling up to the parking lot, and I couldn't see the suspension. And I always joked around, like, when I pulled up, I'm like, the suspension's gonna break, or it's not existence. But I don't have that same car anymore, thank God. Good question, Jeremy.
Favorite trails in the park?
And what do you do?
Okay, good question. Honestly, like, I grew up here, and I just find, like, there's so many trails I haven't explored yet, and it's so cool. Like, even today, like, going by Le Nordique, just doing that trail, I'm like, how have I lived here my whole life and not known about that trail? Like, that trail is awesome. But I'd say, like, Wolf Trail is my favorite trail to hike on or run on, and then Brazilian is my favorite one to mountain bike on. Super curvy and stuff like that. Yeah.
I have a question. So, since it's a family business,
Yeah.
what do you find is the best part of working as a family, and what do you find is the most challenging part?
Yeah. Want to ask Catherine? The best part is, like, I don't know, you get to experience the biggest highs and the biggest lows with your family. The biggest highs are super awesome. The biggest lows, maybe not so awesome. But I think what I struggle a lot with Catherine is I just want to talk about the business so much with her that, like, we'll be at a family dinner or Christmas and, like, Catherine, you know who signed up today? And she's like, Thomas, like, shut up. Like, I've been working there all week. I know. We're having dinner now. Like, please stop. So I think Catherine's often the one that sets the boundary. She's like, okay, we'll hang out, but, like, just don't talk about the gym.
One time he called me and I declined it, and I texted him and I was like, are you calling me as your business partner or your brother or your sister? And he was like, my sister, do you want to come hang out with the boys, like his kids? And I was like, yeah, of course, I'll be up in a sec. And I was like, if you're calling me as your business partner, like, I'm not answering.
Yeah,
So yeah, boundaries.
good boundaries.
We cannot finish on that.
Yeah, keep asking, guys. Come on, let's get some questions going.
What's next for Chelsea Athletica?
I'm glad you asked, because this week we just expanded the parking lot. For any of you guys that have come, we know how tricky Saturday mornings can be. We also have air conditioning coming in June, so stay tuned. Anything else, Kat?
Backyard.
And,
We're kind of trying to create something like this, but in our backyard, so that we can, share the outdoor vibes.
Yeah, we're in the forest, so we kind of want to take advantage of that. We have some landscaping going on, so yeah.
Yeah, more events, more,
Honestly,
me and my
we're
events.
so stoked about the membership and community we've had. We just want to try to give back to you guys, and I know the boy, like some guys, Austin, Colin, are really excited about a sauna. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but we're working on it. Okay.
Will they be outside training ground or?
I know Peter had always thought that was a really good idea. So if you bring it up to Peter, he will not scream.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
As someone from Chelsea and as a family here, like, what would be your legacy? Like, what would you like your legacy to be?
Man, the deep questions, man. Honestly, just I hope, like, when people talk about Chelsea Athletica, when we're not around, they just say, like, there's just good people that really care, and that we're really friendly, and that we really mean well. And I think we try to do that the best way we can. We want to make everyone feel really welcome, no matter their experience or level of fitness, and in a sense, like, just hopefully give back to the community if we can give back in any way. And I think the biggest reward we have as coaches is seeing someone walk in for the first time being super nervous, because I know it's really scary walking into a new gym. Like, I do it for a living, and when I travel and walk into a new gym, I still get scared. So I can't imagine what it's like for someone who's never been to a gym before. And I know the process in their head has been for months, like, okay, I'm gonna go, I'm not fit enough, I'm gonna go. And then when they finally show up, they're nervous. And so what me and Kat at least try to do is, like, make it as welcoming as possible. But for us, the most rewarding thing is looking at that same person 3 months from when they started, having a bunch of new friends, feeling more confident, showing up, and just, like, everyone knows their name. And for us, like, that's the most rewarding thing, is to have people come in the gym, meet new friends, feel better about themselves, feel more confidence. So I think it would be awesome as a legacy to just like have that impact on someone's life, like just to have a positive impact. I don't know if that's really cheesy, but it was a deep question. So
We lived it, so thank you.
yeah.
So wondering about kids programs. I know last year there was some buzz about joining up, but do you have anything right now, or how does it work? Like,
I wish we could say that we have a kids program, because there's so much interest and we always get questions about having a kids program, and I know it would benefit kids so much. I have kids of my own. It's just right now with the gym and the space we have, it's just been really busy, and there's been already so much demand from adults. And we've tried doing some kids programs, but as you know, as a parent, the year fluctuates with kids and the programs they have. So we ran a kids program. It was really fluctuating. Sometimes there'd be a lot of kids, sometimes there wouldn't. But at the same time, we had this big demand for the adult classes, which were more consistent. So it's something we're working on bringing, and we're working on. But I, as someone that has kids, I do really want to have a kids program and stuff like that, because it would be super fun and super beneficial for the youth here.
and is there an age like my kids are 14 and 16? Like, what's the earliest that they could come in? Can they join the adult groups, or what's the age?
18 is really the cap for the adult classes. But if we had it, we'll work on it. But I honestly, at 16 and 15, I used to run a CrossFit Kids class, and it's super beneficial. It helps them a lot in other sports and stuff. It really builds a good foundation for their athletic literacy moving forward. Yeah. We'll talk. Questions?
Any questions from family?
No, I've had enough questions from them.
You want to coach class tomorrow morning?
No. Yeah.
You've done a lot of workouts in your life.
Yeah.
What's the hardest one you've ever done that you can remember?
Okay. That's a good question, because I feel like, so the question was, what was the hardest workout I've ever done? And I feel like a lot of people assume volume with difficulty. They assume like Murph is the hardest workout you've ever done. In my opinion, it's not. Like, I can do Murph. So Murph is like a 1 mile run, 300 air squats, 200 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, and then another mile run. It will take like 45 minutes. It's a lot of volume, it's a lot of movements. But like, I can do it, you know what I mean? I can do it and whatever. But I find the hardest workouts oftentimes are the simplest ones, because it's not a matter of if I can do it or complete it, or if I'm strong enough to do it. It's like, how badly do I want this? How dark am I willing to go? How much pain am I going to do and put myself through? So real simply, the hardest workout, I can't like pin one. But like, for example, like a simple movement, like a calorie on the Echo bike would be like one that would just put me in a coma, because anybody can go really hard on an Echo bike. Everybody can do it. Same thing with burpees or wall ball shots, but it's like, how dark do you want to go? Like, how freaking dark, how bad do you want it? So 50 calories is also in that 2.5 minute time range, where it's like, it can't be a full sprint. It's not fully aerobic. It's right in that lactic acid zone, right in that like pure pain zone. So that for me would be like the hardest workout I've ever done. But also any workout where like a big competition's on the line, and it's in that same kind of like lactic threshold, like how badly do I want it? So I remember qualifying for the games, we had like a strength event where it was like a 1 rep max snatch. So the Olympic lifting movement, like that's not hard, because like my strength is my strength. All it is like, how good am I gonna warm up, and can I PR? It is what it is. If it's a long distance event, again, it's my aerobic capacity. It doesn't hurt as much, I find. If it's in like that 2.5 minute range with a simple movement, burpees, assault bike, wall balls, hell, that hurts so bad, because everyone can do it. It's just like, how bad do you want it? To answer your question, Ron, I would say 50 calories for time on an assault bike. We'll program that at Chelsea Athletica this week.
have a question.
Yeah.
What was your like best or coolest moment at the games?
Best or coolest moment at the games? I think honestly, like, I can't really pin like a specific. We had a couple events where we were like winning, and that was cool because like the cameras are on you and like the announcer's on you, and you kind of know where you're positioned during the workout based on like the crowd like noise, because like you finish something or you hear the team that's ahead like beside you finish something, and the crowd kind of like builds up. But I think the coolest moment wasn't necessarily a workout or any moment during a workout, but it was kind of being like in the warm-up area with these athletes that I kind of grew up like idolizing. I was like trying to stay cool, but like Rich Froning's warming up beside me, or Annie Thor's daughter, just these people who I used to like watch growing up. And so for me, I was like taking a step back, being like, holy shit, be cool, take a moment, that's cool, all right, focus, time to compete. But that was, I think, the coolest moment for me, just being at the games.
All right, let's give Tommy a round of applause.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, man, that was fun. Do we go for drinks now? More drinks?